to Goodnight Colombo. Hacking computer security is a very commonly spoken of theme. A lot of the time people are actually worried, am I being hacked? Or a lot of people end up thinking, I'm too small to be hacked. I don't have that much of information actually with me. So how can I be hacked and why would anyone want to hack me? These are some very simple thoughts that cross our minds all the time. We hear about computer breaches, we hear about computer attacks most of the time in foreign countries, large-scale breaches leading up to millions of dollars worth losses. And at the same time, we also end up realizing sometimes that, well, there had been a small transaction. Yeah, well, I've lost about $1. Maybe I'll just get it changed and I'm safe. There's nothing to worry. And we tend to sometimes feel very safe about online transactions. But is there another side to it? Is there a story that we are not really catching up with? And to talk about that with more detail, we have today joining us Steve D, co-founder of Hackster. I must get that part right. And at the same time, he is a security researcher, IT digital security researcher, and a former hacker. Steve D, welcome to Goodnight Colombo.
Hi, how's it going?
All good, mate. Now, Steve, I want to ask you this. What does a hacker really do during a lockdown?
They basically surf around. That's like a huge marker right there because everyone is locked down. Everyone has to go through buying stuff from online, and that's more like a bonus month for them. I mean, if you are not aware about security and if you are not mindful about what steps taken in online, and you're most likely to get to become a victim of one of the hackers. So,
okay, Steve. Now, let's say someone like me who is an average internet user. I come online. Yes, I might do a few transactions here and there, but I'm mostly surfing the web. How much of a threat am I actually in? And are hackers mostly interested in attacking big companies where the big money is, or are they even going after the more smaller, seemingly insignificant fish like me who is just swimming around in the internet pond?
Yeah, that's a misconception. Like only hackers go for the big corporates. Basically, we have several type of hackers. One who likes to do corporate espionage. One people who wants to damage the reputation. There are hack tweaks. So it's you're asking like you're there are so many thieves in a term, if you put it like that way, and which way you're going to get caught is you really don't know unless you take security measures. Just like right now we are going through COVID, and the same scenarios that we've been facing, like am I getting affected by COVID? Am I by wearing a mask would help me out? Only way that everything can work together is being mindful about what precautions you need to take, and being really mindful about what activities you're going to do online. So yeah.
All right. We are straight away getting a few questions. I believe we have a good base of IT enthusiasts, general digital enthusiasts, IT security enthusiasts, and of course the general public joining us this evening as well. The question that is raised here by Pasan Gunratna, who is joining us, is if someone is actually having two-factor authentication and they are using SMS as a second factoring device, can such an account still be hacked? I mean, that's a very serious high level of security we are looking at, Steve.
Yeah. So if you have two-factor authentication, yes, still you can get hacked in several ways. It's not that one way of getting hacked is like one of the organization just leaking out the whole data into the world by hackers. So that's where two-factor wouldn't work. Really doesn't matter. So, and if you are using factoring devices, it's chances are very light, but it's a possibility that could happen. It depends on what type of attack you're going to use, and how much they know about you, and are are they, and what are the things you share online.
All right. Now, Steve, I want to ask you this. How badly are the average Sri Lankans getting attacked and hacked? From your perspective and from your experience, you've also been doing some research into this as well. How
Yeah.
badly are people? I mean, in other words, how badly or how often does your phone ring saying, "Look, I've been hacked. I need help"?
Yeah, quite a lot often, but the only thing is that it's not common to Sri Lanka. It's a common thing globally. Um, it's, it's a it's a kind of an issue right now because people are not aware about what security to be practiced. At the same time, they want to be on cyber world and surf around and use the easy access ways of getting things done, and and basically you are in threat. So most of the, if you categorize that as in an age group, so most of the victims are somewhere around who are born in 60s or mid 50s and on 80s and 70s as well, because they use, most of the time they use one user account, one email user account, and they don't like to change the passwords. And but then again, when it comes to millennials, they have 5 accounts and they know how to change a password every time. So and then people who would know what is a spam email and what is not spam email, and having one account for yourself, basically you have so much emails coming to your account, you trust everyone and you tend to click one of those links. So yeah.
Steve, how did you become a hacker? I mean, of course, now you are more on the other side fighting the hackers, but how did you actually end up being a hacker and getting into computer security and let's say hacking?
Yeah, it's a different mindset actually. From the part of I mean, I started when I was in somewhere around 18 years old. So there was not much of internet or IoT things back in the days. People were using a simple website, and people actually do not care. And if you get an email, that means like a big thing back in the day. So and I saw I was always fond of working with computers, and I saw how from social accounts like Facebook, and even before that there was something called MySpace and Hi-Fi, and how people gathering onto those accounts, and how they how they tend to communicate. And at the same time, we see things like, people misleading, like, in early 2000, one of the ways of getting secure your account, I mean, if you forget your password, there's one way of getting your account mentioning one of the secret questions, and most of the time secret question would be, what is your mother's maiden name? And if you just chat with the person and ask, like, having casual chat and ask what is your mother's maiden name, they just give it away. So they have actually right answer right there. So then people kind of knew that, you shouldn't put your secret question as secret answer, and and people evolve. And at the same time, we as a security researcher, we also evolve with what social behaviors they use.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I would like to ask you, Steve, in a more Sri Lankan context, when, let's say, as you said, let's talk about the spam emails, right?
Yeah.
Now, people get spam emails all the time, and they might say, okay, you want this, let's say you have got this offer, sign in, and there are so many emails that say, send your bank account number, etc. Do Sri Lankan people actually fall for this kind of tricks?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of chances of that happening, because there are several incidents that we have received saying that there's sextortion mails that's going on, saying that you have secret photos of yours and blah blah blah, and if you don't send me this much of money through bitcoins, you can expose that, and people get freaked out. So I mean, it's been a regular thing. So at the same time, people see a 50% off or 100% off on one good product, and it's too good to be true, but still you want to click it and see how it goes, because it's basically redirect to another site that looks like the same site, and you just put your username and password. They just store the username and password, and they use it for their benefit. So I mean, this is very oftenly happening, and only way of, I think, preventing is having a basic knowledge of security and being mindful of every step you take. So that's what we practice in right now with COVID, right? So basically we keep our social distancing, and we use masks, we use sanitizers as much as possible. So being mindful about a pandemic, I mean, the same practice you should have in the cyber world as well. Like being mindful about where you're going to put your password in, and where you're going to put your credit card numbers in, and is the site is secure? Is it the same bank's URL, has the same URL as your bank? So I mean, not being mindful makes you vulnerable, and if you're being mindful, it's very limited to get. It's limited. I mean, the chances are very less that you will get hacked today, but if you at one point you mispractice that, and still there's a chance of you getting hacked. So it's need to be a common practice every day. You should practice your you should mindful about what security precautions you take about your accounts.
Steve, now let's say an average Sri Lankan shopper, let's say they go to some website, like for example, let's say Daraz, or they go to say Takas or something, some website like that, all right? And they're just making a purchase, all right? I mean, is there a threat that there is actually that credit card information which they are entering into the secure system, where that is actually, is there a threat that might fall into the wrong hands of somebody? Like, for example, is it possible for someone to have a software installed in my laptop which captures my keystrokes, and through that they get the password? Is that a possibility?
Yes, it is, because let's say now before I come to this interview, I kind of did some research about how your social activities. So just to explain how it goes. So there are a few things each and every person who would do and allow people to get so much information, background information about what type of device they have, what type of version of OS they're using, what are the accounts they're using. Are they using Gmail accounts? Are they using some other accounts? Are they administrator on certain accounts? And what are the privileges this person has in the company? So they just, the hackers basically do a good mapping out about, what type of data you use in social day-to-day life, and use that data and craft it in a way that something you would like. So for an example, let's say someone who uses Windows and who uses two mail accounts, one is Gmail and one is some other, something like Soho. So, and someone who loves cricket, and at the same time, and his OS is Windows. So all of this information matters to the hacker, so that he knows what type of message that person will get attracted to. Let's say cricket, and you see a hot news going on. Some player got fired recently, and they put it onto the mail and send you a link. Check the post because it's hot news. And when you click on the post, it goes basically to a Facebook lookalike page, and you just have to put your username and passwords, and voila, so he got it. So they think all of the things that you don't think through and use those information against you. So,
Wow.
So yeah.
Okay. So it's I might be just casually doing a bit of shopping, or maybe just buying a small subscription on Google, but they're actually they're capturing that. All right.
Yeah, so there are several ways you can get hacked. Let's say if you are using public Wi-Fi to get stuff online, and and a hacker would accidentally who is just there to see any person who is surfing around internet and buying stuff online, because one of the best places is airport. They have public Wi-Fi. You must use it, and there are shops online. So you just do research and you check Amazon has the better value than the duty free, and hacker also right there. So and basically he will take one of the routers and hack into it, because he also have access to the same router as you are. So, and he will make a copy of that router access and make sure all of the devices think that that copy is the actual router. So he makes sure all the traffic goes through his device to the router and to the internet. So basically every single data that goes through your device, goes through to the public, it goes through his device. So let's say you want to go to Amazon.com and buy stuff, or just to check stuff. So all of that data will go through his device public. So basically he has that data and he can use it anytime he wants.
Okay.
So yeah.
So Steve, I mean, all that sounds, quite a complex set of activities. Of course, if someone is a expert hacker, I'm pretty sure that they can do that they can manage it. But I remember a long time back, if you are to be a hacker, firstly you have to be an expert in computer security. But increasingly, we are seeing a lot of script kiddies who are basically able to, search something on Google and figure out some ways to hack. And it's the same thing with terrorism. And there are a lot of people. They say that if someone wants to set up a bomb, every step-by-step detail on how they can do it is available on the web. So is it the same with hackers as well? Are more people learning things fast from the internet and getting into the darker side of IT security?
Yeah. So when I started 12 years, 14 years back, there was very less community, and even the community is there. It's very strict on whom they're gonna gather. Whom gonna join into that community. So it's need to be a bunch of experts. If you are a script kiddie, then you are not allowed into that community. So you need to find yourself in. But right now, as the world, as the internet becomes a thing, and suddenly there are so much users, then people tend to display their hacking abilities through forums, and they say this works with me, and would you like to check that out? So then people start to check that out and say that it's going to work. So it's basically anyone with the knowledge of computer, they can learn how to hack if they know about the art of hacking. And if you are really fond of art of hacking, then you will be able to learn few things and tricks online within an hour. So it's become very let's say it's
I get your
faster.
point. People are, there are way more bigger and very effective ways and means for people to, shift over to the dark side. But now we see a lot of talk about, hacker groups and famous hacker groups which are out there in the world. I don't want to mention names, but you know what I'm talking about. Are some of those international hacker groups active in Sri Lanka as well?
Not that I know of. It's not something they have tagged with a country in it. It's a global community. In a word of, you might find someone from Sri Lanka, and then you might find someone from Mexico, and all of the groups gather on one concept, on what they want to achieve. Like, if they want to advertise terrorism or something, then there's another group of people, and there are people who want to prevent terrorism. Then there are another group of people, and there are people who wants to go against government. Then there are there are people like that. So you cannot make a segmentation, but in Sri Lanka, as far as I know, it's it's not there at this moment, but who knows, because it's not been publicly saying we are these people, and except for a few countries, and I don't think even those groups just to reveal their true identity. So
All right. Okay. So they might be there. It's like what the CIA says. You can neither can you confirm nor can you deny.
yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about ex-Hackster. Now, what kind of work do you actually do? It's not the most common model of business. There's a lot of companies that are actually, they talk about IT security, but your one is more specific. You guys are more about, okay, you're under attack, we'll help you to really face off or fend that off. Now, my question to you is, what kind of requests are you most commonly getting? What kind of, the customers who come to you, what is their most common requirement?
Yeah, so Xaxter is a company we based 3 years back, and we provide total cybersecurity solutions, but we are specialized in doing security research and security assessments. And there's something called pen testing, and we just check the strength of the application before it goes live, and we give the bitter truth to them if it can be hackable or not hackable. And we basically we do it for one of the Israeli and USA companies mostly. Then after later on, we realized that Sri Lanka is currently will be having threats coming to Sri Lanka in next couple of years, and people are not ready, and organizations may not be ready as they think. So that's what we are planning with Sri Lanka, and what we have to do, and we'll provide the same facilities that we provide for the other countries, and more than that, we are more likely to share our knowledge among every company, and if they have a security issue, or if something that's not can tell by public, you can just reach out to us and say to us. We'll be more than happy to help. So
all right. So the most common request that you actually get, is it saying, look, I need to check how secure I am, or are they saying, look, I think I've been hacked, or I think someone is hacking me, can you get me out of it?
So we get both. As sometimes we get when people are compromised, and they just want to know how they got compromised, and can get things back to normal again. But and at the same time, we also show them what mistakes they're doing, and if they open up to listen to us, like what are the faults in your system, and we just say it right away. So we just don't keep anything before or after the contract. We just say it. If there is a major thing that makes your users vulnerable or makes your company vulnerable, we publicly we just we tell to that organization to fix it before someone use it for anything else.
All right. Let's talk about ransomware. Now, there have been some cases of people actually saying, look, there was a message that came in and now my device is locked. I can't get anything. And sometimes it can be like at a global level, a particular ransomware attack affecting the devices of individual users. I know some people to whom that has happened, but it can also be sometimes specifically targeted. So are there actually incidents in Sri Lanka where sometimes there are groups of people who have actually used ransomware softwares and tried to get some money out of companies?
So there were several ransomware attacks. I can't say it furthermore about is there any transaction was there with the hackers or not, and certainly it's not something to say it out loud. And but there are several attacks, and there are several organizations have been compromised. And what we saw in mainly it's at the same time lack of infrastructure in security. at the same time, we see lack of knowledge of the users, especially email users, and they are not being very mindful about what they're clicking. And next thing you know, you have compromised the whole company within a day. So then we need to go through a series of computers. We are talking about, let's say, one misclick by a user could compromise somewhere around 100, 200 computers straight away. So, and none of those data can be taken unless you, according to the ransom note, unless you pay them out, but it's highly likely it's going to happen. So, I mean, even if you pay, you won't get anything out of it. It's just gone.
Understood. Steve, let's talk about the social media. Now, there are so many cases of people saying, oh, my social media account was hacked, or let's say it's a very common case where sometimes this, especially the young people, the young adults, they might have shared the passwords and, there is a breakup and the next thing you know, the guy has taken over the entire Facebook account. And, these are common things that happen, right?
Yeah.
In a situation like that, if somebody approaches you saying, look, this has happened to me, can you help me to recover? And let's say that guy has changed everything. He has changed from the phone numbers to the email address, because most of the time, just as much as how, and I'm sorry to say this, I'm not being gender biased at all here, but from my experience, what I've seen is most of the time the girls who actually end up giving the details to the guys most of the time. And the next thing you know, that guy has changed the email address, because not only to the Facebook account, he had the password of the email account, and he had even the backup phone number is his phone number. It's a real mess. It's an all-out mess. And for somebody who has studied basic account recovery, it's a nightmare, because he knows, okay, all doors are shut. And in such a case, let's say somebody comes to you, are you in a position to actually help them out? I'm sorry, this may sound like a very kiddish question, but as somebody who conducts programs on digital marketing, and I do a lot of public programs, I'm surprised how sometimes there are very senior level people of the organizations who come and say, look, somebody else has taken my password of my Facebook and email, and I have no way of actually changing anything.
So basically, there are laws now for that. I think Sri Lanka has some laws on recovering a Facebook account, and the cert is one place you can go to, and once the cert approves, then basically there's a policy incident right there. And apart from that, what we can do is, if you ask basically to if you have given the passwords and username, basically you have given everything by yourself to another person, and that person took those things and run away, or just vandalize the whole thing. So in that case, there's very less chance we can help us out. But in some conditions, we can help them out. It really depends on the scenario and what we are really facing, and this is like one of those questions that ask very often, like, can I hack a Facebook account? Answer would always be you can, but there are standards now. You cannot just do it right away, or people can't do it right away unless a human makes an error. There's very less chance you will get hacked by hacked your accounts.
Steve, I want to ask this question actually. If it's too personal, then it's still all right, but you don't have to answer. But what made you shift to the other side, from being a hacker to being more of an ethical hacker, or in other words, a good guy who helps to fight off the bad ones? Or have you actually still crossed over, or are you somewhere in the middle? Just a question.
No. As in this, in early days, there was no security specialist, cyber security specialist, or there was no recognition, and there's no value of the work even for a hacker. Let's say you defaced a website like in 2008, 2007. people will hardly say anything about it. People will not even recognize, the website is hacked. Looks beautiful than before. So that's one of those comments that you get. But now if something get hacked right now and says hacked by this hacking group, then people tend to freak out. Oh my God, my accounts are there, and what I'm gonna do. So all the panic started to happen. So so what my thing was like, back in the days, hackers were not being recognized as a job, or as a there's a great impact to the world. But soon the analog world to digitalization, people start to see the danger of having secret loops in their systems. And there are groups who have practiced before, now they can use their skills to show it off. And then suddenly there was hackers divided into white hackers and black white hat hackers and black hat hackers. So white hat hackers, basically what they do is, they they test the systems, and they expose the system vulnerabilities to the companies that provide that service. And they will pay for it before it gets to someone who are criminal minded. So that's how the trade started to evolve. And as a career, security analyst or security specialist or security research, that's how the trend started to evolve. So, and once from hacking point of view, I see most of now are into white hat hacking, but there are some hacking groups there at the same time. So most of the individual people are more like into security research. They're fond of security researching.
All right. Okay. So, Steve, in terms of the government regulations and the policies with regard to cybersecurity, where do you think Sri Lanka is? I mean, has our regulations and our cybersecurity policies evolved at the same rate that the technologies have evolved? Because most of the time, what we see is that the technologies evolve. We don't have technology evolutions anymore. We have technology revolutions. Overnight, there is some new technology that has really, shot the possibilities of network access and internet speeds and all that overnight. But then you get the policies and the, let's say, the regulation that has been enacted maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. Where do you think Sri Lankan regulation and cybersecurity policies are with regard to this?
In standard wise, so in technological wise, globally, there's an issue. Like, every time you put up a technology, and it takes time people to get used to it, and at the same time, and the community itself will tell you what are the security patches, or what are the security vulnerabilities in that system. So let's say you out some new version of Windows, and within 2 or 3 months, there are security researchers going to say you have this much of vulnerabilities on these systems. It's best to patch it. And the vendor or the OS vendor says, like, we can't patch it, so it's a 0-day vulnerability. Then it's basically for the black hat hackers to take over and do the exploits and do a huge campaign out of it. I think that's a great example of one of those WannaCry ransomware that happened like 3 years back. So that's always a global thing, that one step behind. And I think Sri Lanka has a lot to improve as well. But it will change time to time, and infrastructure is basically, it's very expensive when you're moving to one step to another. So it's basically it's a feasibility that we need to take count, because Sri Lanka is not the most developed country, and certainly there's not much economy can backed up by infrastructure. But as a Sri Lankan, we have a responsibility of taking precautions, and once you take security precautions, that's like 80% of security threats we can removed from the system itself. So just like Sri Lanka did well in pandemic right now, I think that's the same steps we should take when it comes to cybersecurity.
All right, Steve. I would like to ask, since you've been you've been in the dark side and you come to the other side and come to the light, as they say.
Yeah.
What really pisses off a hacker? Let me tell you why I'm asking you this. I remember sometime back, Cisco announced a self-learning and a self-security threat detecting and correction network system. They said it was the next big thing of cybersecurity, where it's a network that uses AI. It studies the attack by itself and it develops the corrective measures by itself. Blah blah blah. It was supposed to be like the oracle of all cybersecurity. And 1 week before the launch, a hacker group hacks into Cisco, steals the source code of Cisco, and then shares these on underground hacker platform, saying, "Here goes the source code of this so-called big security OS." So, I mean, what really pisses them off? I mean, if it's an IT company, that if anyone from an IT company is watching this interview right now, what should they, I mean, not do to really get to up on the wrong side of a hacker?
So, so not to
You know
tell
what
them
I
we are, yeah, I know. So telling to the world, we can't get hacked. It's a stupid way of approaching the world, because what pisses them off mostly is saying that saying you can't, because they are in the mindset of can do. So when you say you can't do this, they will show why not, and this is how you're going to do it, because we are special. So because it's all about when you design a network architecture, any architecture, and that's called, we call them architectures. But a hacker would be doing it's in a reverse way. They use reverse engineering, and they deassemble everything and see, okay, what's this does do, okay, this does do, and they try every element of that system, and until they figure it out, what's wrong with that system, and some loophole, so that they can expose later on, and maybe they can use it to something to monetize it, or maybe to get some reputation as well.
Steve, there's a question being raised through our stream asking about the IBM Watson. This IBM Watson, the artificial intelligence system, which real time learns from articles from the web and notifies anyone about if this IBM Watson has been breached. I mean, is there such a is there? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Is it actually the next level of cybersecurity?
Yeah, it's the cybersecurity automation. I mean, even as we are X-Axis, we are working on such projects, and we do research on how to do security automation, or more like security operation automation. So IBM Watson is one of those things that claims they are in defending security alerts. I mean, defending threats automatically, but that counts. Even though they say that, I don't think they can be 100% sure it will do the job, because it's a first thing is it's a system that been built by another human, so it can be wrong. So, and at the same time, most of the attacks initially most of the vulnerabilities initially in zero-day attacks. So basically what it says is until the vendor says there is a patch for it, it's a 0-day. So let's say attacker take that vulnerability and add a payload and make it weaponized and put it out to the public, and he goes on attacking everything that sees. Then IBM Watson would not ever do much about it. That's what actually happened on WannaCry. That happened 2015 or 2016. So basically they use the zero-day attack and zero-day vulnerability, and create a WannaCry ransomware and attack globally, and it basically mainly impacted NHS hospitals in UK, and it took so much time and so much community, security specialist community, to get things back online. And yeah.
Steve, what about the dark web? I mean, there's a lot of talk about it. Yeah, some people know about it and some people don't know about it. Can you just give us a little brief for the benefit of the viewers this evening? What exactly this dark web is about and what makes it actually dark?
Dark web is basically a place that people, it's like a Google, but it's only been known by the people who knows about it, and where you should go to. And there are several domains right now. It's not just cybersecurity, it's a whole market right there. It's a market, it's more like a black market, where if you know a person who sell guns or anything that that would not sell openly. So dark web is a place I would not recommend to be, and as well as I don't like to speak about in public, and because it's not what I think, it's not important to the world. For civilized world, it's not that really important. It's going to be there, and it was there before, it's going to be there now, and it's going to be there in future as well. And you might, depending on how much you are connected with dark web, you might actually get things worked down, or you might even get scammed. So if you are trying to test that out, you should be really mindful about what you're getting into. So
Steve, for the viewers this evening who are joining us, what is your advice? The basics, the absolute basics, or maybe something beyond the basics, because we all think if we have a strong password, if we have set up two-factor authentication, we are all right. And in your viewpoint, right now, for example, I'll just give you a little hint on this. Now, a few weeks back when we had our first episode, we had Peter de Almeida, an IT veteran himself, speaking about how primitive maybe some of our supermarkets are, because at the point of the checkout, very openly they are asking a lady or maybe even a gent or whoever is buying the goods, okay, what's your mobile number, to enter the points, and somebody could be just right there behind that person trying to get that person's phone number to use for some particular purpose later on. Now, in a context like this, what is your advice? Maybe something beyond the basics that we know, certain steps that we could actually take to make our day-to-day online behavior, much more secure.
Yeah, so it's very simple. You should you should know. You should know about what you should protect when it comes to information. What are things you should have it on public, and what are things not. So probably a mobile number would be something you should keep it with a group of people, not publicly. And yeah, I seen that too. I mean, when you go to supermarkets, they ask about your mobile number, and I was always thinking about, I can, when they type the mobile number, I can see their basically the name on the display saying this person, and there's the list of stuff he takes, so list of things they take home. So if a scammer would see that, he would definitely get the number and call them and saying, you have missed out one of those products. I will basically come around and give it to you, or maybe send me your email. Send me your address so that or you can come and collect it from me or something. And then they could use their scamming skills to scam them. So I mean, those kind of things always there, day-to-day life, and
as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's first you should check about, as I said, like, what are the information you should protect. First, you should think about it, And is your name is something that you want to keep it private? For me, yes, but for everyone else, maybe no. And is it something that your credit card number or your phone number or your email address or your ID number? I think all of those, most of this, most of the time, you should keep it not in public, but with certain number of people. And when it comes to credit card, keep it to yourself, not with anybody else. And when you're browsing online, I would say change your password every 45 days and use 8 to 64 characters and one upper letter, one numeric character, and use some random words if you can. I know it's a pain to do it, but we all have to go through it. And you should, if you have 2FA or two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication, you should use that. Probably that would help you. And being mindful about which site you are going to. Let's say you're going to a supermarket says A, and is it a.com? What if it says a-.cn, then it's something else that looks like a.com. So it's basically it's traps lying around everywhere. You should be really careful. And you think you may not get caught someday, I mean today, but there's always a chance you will get caught. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen this very famous, I think that's one of the more popularly trending series on Netflix called Jamrata, about the city in India that has a whole bunch of, poverty-struck kids who are just getting these burner cell phones where they can just take a few calls and then throw them away and no tracing. And they use these cell phones to call very unsuspecting people and say, look, I'm calling from this bank, you have got this TV, you just have to confirm your credit card number and the CCP number at the back of it. And these guys very willingly give all that information. So,
Yeah.
and but in your view, such kind of scam operators are trying their luck in Sri Lanka as well, from what you've seen.
Yes, I've seen many occasions, especially on Facebook as well. In the pandemic time, I saw there are several accounts trying to scam, saying we'll give you 1 million of rupees, just putting let's say 10,000 rupees. We'll expand that into 1 million within a day. And I have seen the comments since, how can you do that? Where I should go to? And we actually, in the pandemic period, we actually built a cyber threat response team on Facebook, so that if there's such an alert that comes to you, you can just post it to them. And what they basically do is they scam the scammers. So, I mean, that's operation we have started, because Xaxter is known for being offensive and defensive. So, and one of the things that we started, and able to, at that time we saw like certain Facebook accounts that they trying to scam people, and we actually exposed some of the scams. One of those scams that you usually get from your parents, saying that KFC free meal. Yeah, so Pizza Hut free meal. So we went through all those forums and see what they're trying to get. Are they trying to click jacking you? Are they trying to get your accounts? And there are some banking related accounts as well. There was some group was trying to get the online banking account number and the password. It's just in a simple Google form.
So if you get a message saying that KFC giving free meals or McDonald's is giving you a date with the clown, don't believe it.
Don't believe it. No.
I mean, and it's crazy how this spreads, because so many people, no sooner they get that message, they just start sharing. And another one I've seen is saying that Sri Lankan Airlines is giving away free air tickets.
Yeah.
I mean, the airline is making a loss. You can't do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's, as I said, like in the earlier times, usually those links, millennials and who were born in 90s won't get tricked to it, but there are who are born in somewhere around 70s and 80s, or even before, they tend to see it, oh, okay, free offer. I mean, that's something they believe, you know. That's I think the cultural difference that, you know, that how the era works, you know, and the hackers identified that type of that era that people tend to believe things that on a piece of paper, on a piece of ink, and those are the people. At the same time, those are the people who actually have money. So, and it's a gold mine for them.
Yep, yep. Steve, there's a bit of a technical, we are in our last 5 minutes, but there's a little bit of a technical question that is raised in the Q&A section. It's a little bit beyond my comprehension. So I'm wondering whether you could take a look at it and give a brief answer to that in what you think. And I also like to know whether you think Zoom is actually safe, because there's a lot of worries about Zoom being easily hacked, etc. So,
Zoom has complications, but I think the Zoom application owners, they are aware about it and they fixing it as it sees. If your Zoom is up to date, then you should be fine right now. And yeah, the laser used to send voice commands far from. Yeah, I saw the POC as well. I've seen there are people getting Alexa hacked, but it's still a proof of concept. And as I said earlier, like those are the white hat hackers who are exposing the vulnerabilities and showing to the world, so that before someone else who have criminal mindset would not get that. So I'm sure that should get patched very soon.
All right. Steve, on one final question. Now, the global COVID-19 pandemic has really made us, you know, take a step back in so many aspects. It has pushed so many economies and so many businesses in the back foot. Now, in your view, we've seen this many a time in movies, but I would like to ask from you, do you think is a global digital Armageddon kind of a situation actually possible, where a bunch of hackers just unleashes a very, very strong attack? And because we've seen this, there has been hackathons, not the innocent coding hackathons, but the proper hackathons where, you know, millions of computers get hacked in a matter of few hours around the world. In your view, is it possible that one day we will actually face a global level digital Armageddon, where maybe governments, top businesses, airlines, everything gets just completely shut down with one attack, even for a short while? But is it a possibility? Because the world is getting connected more and more. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a possible. I mean, that's what you call cyber fire sale. Basically, you.
I'm sorry to interrupt and pardon my ignorance, but that's a term I heard in Die Hard 4.
Yeah. So yeah. So it's a possibility that I think every country is thinking of what if this happens. So, and they are building the protocols on how people should move around, and still it's early stages, but there is a huge possibility. Let's say if someone, because everything works in one infrastructure and everything has to centralize onto one infrastructure, and once things get automated and things get easier for more humans to use it, so we are all depending on one infrastructure that's been lying around by the set up by the certain country's foundation. So let's say a hacker able to get into a core of that system and able to switch it off everything, and probably that's a possibility that they are thinking of.
Well, let's hope it just remains a possibility and not a reality. Steve D, thank you very much for having joined us this evening. It was a pleasure speaking to you. And I'm quite sure all the participants felt very safe when you very clearly said, well, I've shifted to the light now, so don't worry, I'm not over there. May you be able to prevent many such attacks and many more security failures in the digital side for your clients and for Sri Lanka as well. Thank you very much to you and also to ex-Hackster for the good work you guys have been doing so far. And thank you for joining us this evening. May you keep on thwarting those attacks and making our nation and our businesses and our individuals safer from cyber attacks. Thank you for joining. Good night, Colombo.
Thank you, Tarinder. Thanks a lot for having me.
And to our viewers as well who joined us this evening, I hope you got what you came for. Your accounts are safe, and I hope that you can make your businesses and your personal accounts much more secure in the future. And until next week, this is Tarinder Amarasekara signing off. Good night, Colombo.